Hello and welcome to News Central Now. I'm Dashen, Usman. The top stories this hour. Arrested NSAS memorial protesters freed after alleged police brutality. Federal government set to transfer national grid management to an independent system operator. Occupants of Kenyan's 7-story house trapped in building collapse as rescue mission continues. Details shortly. We begin by telling you that today marks the 4th anniversary of the tragic events at the Lekki toll gate, where peaceful protesters were met with violence during the NSAS movement in 2020. The memory of that night continues to resonate deeply within Nigeria and beyond. News Central's Bettina Ngweli reports.
4 years ago, thousands of Nigerians gathered at the Lekki toll gate in Lagos to demand justice against police brutality in the country. 4 years after, with an attempt at a solemn remembrance, banners and placards were seized and protesters apprehended and whisked away in a Black Maria.
Against unjustice. Police,
group of protesters
we are fighting for you. Your fans are going to oppress you. Who are you going to come?
On the NSAS Lekki toll gate massacre, apprehended by a group of policemen under the leadership of the Commissioner of Police in Lagos. I'm right now speaking to you.
Look at me.
From a Black Maria.
I am beaten and my phones are seizing.
Brutalized. My glasses.
I will be robbed.
My phones have been
taken by the police.
It was struck away from the hands by a police officer without any provocation. We're asking here today, when the right to commemorate the dead has become illegal and criminalized in this country.
Concerned citizens, over 20 in number, united to honor the memories of the deceased, but instead were faced with heavy resistance from the police. The Commissioner of Police, though present, did not address the press and instructed that his team shouldn't address the press either.
I just got arrested now by the area commander of Island. So I'm going to meet the likes minds of people inside the Black Maria. Solidarity forever. My struggle, freedom come.
Today's event serves as a poignant reminder of the ongoing struggle for justice, freedom, and above all, the enduring spirit of the NSAS movement in Nigeria. In Lagos, for News Central, I'm Bettina Ngweli.
Similarly, 22 protesters arrested by the police during the NSAS memorial at the Lekki toll gate in Lagos have been released. The protesters had gathered on Sunday morning to mark the 4th anniversary of the #NSAS protest, which demanded an end to police brutality in Nigeria. Hassan Taiwo Soweto, the national spokesman for the Youth Rights Campaign, confirmed the release of the protesters to journalists, revealing that the Lagos State Commissioner of Police personally visited Panti police station to facilitate their release. However, Soweto criticized the CP's actions, alleging that the arrest and assault happened in his presence. According to Soweto, many of the protesters suffered injuries, with one experiencing severe bleeding from the nose. In the meantime, the Pan-Yoruba Social, Cultural and Political Group, Afenifere, has cautioned the federal government against following recent advice from the World Bank, which suggested reducing government support for social services in Nigeria. In a statement issued on Saturday by its National Publicity Secretary, Jare Ajayi in Ibadan, Afenifere urged the government to carefully consider the implications of the World Bank's recommendations. The World Bank had advised that Nigeria maintain its ongoing economic reforms for the next 10 to 15 years to position itself as a leading economic power both in sub-Saharan Africa and globally. According to the bank, these reforms are essential for sustainable growth and development, allowing Nigeria to compete with other emerging economies. However, Afenifere pointed out that the current administration under President Bola Tinubu would have completed its term long before the anticipated benefits of these reforms are realized. The group stressed the need for homegrown policies that support local businesses, encourage innovation, and reduce the country's dependence on imports. The National Vice Chairman of the Labour Party, Southeast, CK Gara, says he and some executives of the party have been subjected to untold humiliation and intimidation by the factional acting chairman of the party and Abia state government. He said they will no longer take lightly all the threats and discomforts they have suffered in the recent times, as Emmanuel Oti and the state government will be held responsible. News Central's Chingo Gele has more.
Just like the meeting of Saturday at Abada was disrupted by some detectives, some members of the Labour Party leadership in the zone are meeting in the same space on Sunday to evaluate the events of the previous day. After spending nearly 12 hours in the custody of the police in Umuahia, the National Vice Chairman of the Labour Party in the Southeast, CK Igara, reveals there was no prior invitation by the police before his arrest.
Yesterday I was asking them, all these Gestapo, why not just invite me? I will come. If you invite me, I will come. But you have not invited me. And then what, you resort to come here to come and whisk me away as if you have seen a common criminal.
On the allegations by the factional acting chairman of the Labour Party in Abia State that Igara is impersonating and extorting members, he has this to say.
Based on the incompetent attitude of Emot, the party dissolved Abia State and empaneled a new committee, a caretaker committee, for 3 months in line with the constitution of the party. And that brought Prince Dr. Gio Ndubeze as the acting state chairman.
As for Prince Ndubeze, the factional state chairman of Labour Party, there must be a thorough investigation into the arrest.
We are also happy that the police did the needful by releasing our national vice chairman within the time frame, although we will like the matter to be thoroughly investigated to know the reason for that. We are not going to just because he has been released and we allow the matter to die the way it came. No, it's impossible. So it's the accusation. We want it to be properly investigated, and somebody must be responsible because this is not the first time.
In solidarity, the Imo State chairman of Labour Party, who was in the meeting, Callistus Ihejawa, condemns the arrest of the party's zonal chairman, saying the party ought to eschew internal wrangling.
It's regrettable that the police could be used to intimidate and harass party officers, especially in a state that is governed by a governor from Abia's Labour Party extraction. As a father, we are appealing to him to see the need to embrace the olive branch that our national chairman extended to everyone.
To what extent can the recent developments within the Labour Party that have pitched one-time party faithful against one another affect their chances at the forthcoming elections in Abia State? Only time will tell. In Umuahia for News Central, Chinwe Ugele.
Now joining us to discuss this is factional acting chairman of Labour Party in Abia State, Emmanuel Oti. Good evening, Emmanuel. Thank you so much for joining us on the news. All right, can you speak to us about, your claim that CK Gara and others were impersonating Labour Party officials, and what specific actions led to this particular accusation?
Thank you. I want to correct one impression first. The impression is that I am not a factional state chairman. I am the state chairman inaugurated, and I have SWC also inaugurated through Congress, who are with me as the state party chairman. In my office at 74 School Road, where the party has its secretariat, I gave the national vice chairman an office there because there is no office for him as a national vice chairman. In my own magnitude, I had to give him an office equipped for him to operate from there. On the issue of intimidation, I want to state categorically clear here that nobody intimidated the national vice chairman and the Abia South. I repeat, Abia party chairman, who is under my watch, Pastor D.O. Ndubeze. Ndubeze is the zonal party chairman. From where I was elevated to, through harmonization, to as a state acting chairman till June 2025. On the issue of being functional, what kicked off the issue of being a functional chairman is the issue of election and the issue of selling funds. I'm very much happy they said that they were arrested, the national vice chairman. The president did say that they will not, though that he has been released, that they will also allow the police to investigate the matter. It's a very good idea because we have a sitting governor.
But Mr. Oti, what prompted you to petition the police against Igara and others? You've actually not said why they were arrested and why you petitioned them. Hello, Mr. Oti.
Chairman of Imo State, of the true story of what happened. But I'm happy he said that we are Labour Party and we have constitution. We have areas, we have our duties, functions according to our specified position. The national vice chairman is the chairman, national vice chairman, representing the national within the 5 eastern states and the southeast. We are about to have election. It is the responsibility, sole responsibility of the state to organize, conduct their primaries, and then, if need be, they will send the list to the National Executive Council if there is any problem. In this case, there is no problem. All the state working committee, we all are working in harmony. There is no petition of misconduct of any kind. There is no reports. There is no quarrel. In fact, let me just let you know that these people went. We never knew when Igara made away with the registers of the party. Mr. Oti, we actually seem to be having connection issues with you, but we'll try to reconnect and get back to you. Thank you so much for speaking with us so briefly at this time. Now we'll take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll tell you how UNICEF highlights efforts to improve children's well-being. We'll bring you this and many more after the break. Stay with us. Thank you for staying with us.
Former Nigerian President and Head of State Olusegun Obasanjo has visited Bauchi State, where he called for collective efforts to address insecurity in the country. News Central's Imori Kirawa reports that the former president arrived earlier in the day to inaugurate two major urban and rural renewal road projects executed by Governor Bala Mohammed. The road includes the 17.7-kilometer Kano Road to Abubakar Tafawa Balewa International Airport, Bauchi, as well as 30-kilometer Gubi Gari Ruda Bida C to Nasarawa Road, connecting Ganjua and Bauchi Road local government areas. Now, Obasanjo, during his visit to Bauchi, also provided 200 students with digital hearing aids through his foundation. The federal government, through the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission, NERC, has announced that discussions are underway to transfer the management of the national grid to an independent system operator in accordance with the provisions of the Electricity Act 2023. This move is expected to improve grid discipline and stability. NERC also confirmed that the recent national grid collapse on Saturday was caused by an explosion at the Jeba transmission station. However, efforts to restore power have made significant progress, with electricity supply reinstated in 33 states and the Federal Capital Territory by 1 p.m. on Saturday. Now, this marks the third national grid collapse in 1 week, leading to widespread power outages, and the grid had also tripped off on Monday and Tuesday during restoration efforts. In a statement posted on its official X handle, NERC acknowledged the recent increase in grid disturbances and assured the public that steps are being taken to address the issue. Joining us to discuss this is a business and social policy analyst, Kenneth Ikenwa. Hello, Kenneth. Thank you for joining us on the news.
Hello, Dashen. Good evening. Thanks for having me on.
It's a pleasure. Now, Kenneth, how do you foresee the transition to an independent system operator impacting the efficiency and reliability of Nigeria's national grid?
All right, fantastic. I just go straight to the point because all of us seem to be at the center of this, so at the epicenter of this challenge, collapse upon collapse. I've lived in this country for over 4 decades now, and I can tell you that Nigeria is one beautiful country case study where we usually have a lot of beautiful economic plans and strategies, but the problem becomes implementation. And why is that so? That's particularly because we do not factor in the polychromatic nature, of our, of our components, different people, different cultures, different ideas, and competing, interests when we come to designing these policies and implementing them. Now, what do I mean by this? This will have been a fantastic initiative if there will be no political undertone that will actually determine which independent operator would actually take over this. And we saw this with NITEL a couple of 25 years ago, where NITEL was outsourced and somebody was asked to come, take over NITEL. And we discovered there was one company that was a one-bedroom company somewhere in the Netherlands or Europe that was asked to take over NITEL. So what I would say is that instead of just relying on an independent operator, I would canvass for a joint venture, as a strategy to address this issue, where we'll have maybe some companies with international experience and then some local players that will come on stage and take over the management of national grid and ensure that we guarantee efficiency. But another angle to this is ensuring that when private players are made to take over, the cost of electricity will not actually increase, and that there will be maximum efficiency, effectiveness, and Nigerians at the end of the day will benefit from this. But this is just one angle to the problem. As the conversation unfolds and evolves, we could see angles that will help us solve this problem going forward.
Well, electricity being, after it's being privatized, and the need for an increase in cost of energy is one thing that scares Nigerians, considering what they're facing at the moment. But then given the recent frequency of grid collapses and also the power outages that, we've experienced, what do you think are the potential socioeconomic implications of businesses, or for businesses rather, and households, particularly in terms of productivity and economic growth?
I'll take the answer straight away from what you said. Basically, when there are issues like this and it's of national monumental consequence, it affects the general production possibility curve of Nigeria, as it were. All right, so businesses, individuals, households now have to run helter-skelter to actually get their own energy, derive their own energy to sustain whatever. For the households, for instance, you have foodstuffs that will go bad, and this will cost, families that are having to suffer with high cost of inflation. For businesses, they will have to resort to diesel and other sorts of energy to get their businesses running. And generally, when you bring that back at the macroeconomic level, to see the multiplier effect of a problem like this, it creates some degree of subtle inflation. Because somebody that operates a restaurant where he or she has to actually, find their own energy and fund their own energy will definitely translate the cost of that energy back to the general consumers. And basically, it doesn't really augur well. It doesn't speak well for our international reputation. At present, we, as a nation of over 200 million people, are managing to generate and distribute 4,300 megawatts. This 4,200 megawatts is not even certain. It is what some boroughs, it is what some local governments in some countries, outside Africa and within Africa, generate or for their local governments and for their boroughs, or what you call for their counties. So it should help. It should be a pointer to a bigger problem. Why would Nigeria, having made some trillions of dollars from oil, still be having the problem of generating electricity when we have an abundant resource retinue of gas that is being flared and wasted, and when we have other sources of energy that we can actually convert, and when we are supposed to be a technological power with so many technologies, universities, so many professors of electrical engineering, we're still having this problem. It really begs the question, and for me particularly, it is beginning to assume a humorous dimension, because you can't overthink on these issues. You can only hope that those who are taking decisions are taking these decisions in the best interest of Nigeria and in the best interest of making us more productive, and not making us a country that has to deal with these liabilities, of bad decision making.
Well, I agree with you. Now, speaking of, taking decisions, putting the common man at heart, what reforms do you think that the NERC can implement to prevent future grid failures and also to manage crisis situations more effectively?
I think so many Nigerians would definitely have become wary of that word, reforms. So we shouldn't be talking about reforms now. We should actually be laying emphasis on strategy. Yeah, solutions, strategies, strategic action plans. I think for too long, since I was a boy in this country and since I began to understand what NEPA is and what NEPA does, we have depended so much on one source of generating electricity in this country. I think the basic strategic plan and the basic strategic intention that should be pursued right now is how do we diversify our energy generation basis, our energy generation pivots. Now, we've depended so much on hydropower, and so we have so many dams, and when some of these dams are even opened, it causes more, environmental problems, it displaces people, and more economic damage than is expected. So I would hope that all hands will be on deck to see to it that we begin to look at how we diversify our sources of energy. We have an abundance of coal in Nigeria. We have an abundance of sunlight in Nigeria. We have an abundance of wind in Nigeria. We have an abundance of bio-waste in Nigeria. These are four key sources that can be converted, harnessed, by Nigerians, by the technology that's available to create electricity in Nigeria. So what we are actually experiencing in the sector is actually what we call X inefficiency. I take that again, X inefficiency. And what does X inefficiency bother on? It bothers on the fact that the capabilities and the technologies that have been deployed and being appropriated in the energy sector today are quite obsolete. And so we are suffering from technological obsolescence, capability obsolescence in that area. So we deal with that on the one hand, and on the other hand, diversify that sector, liberalize that sector, and let us implement the Electricity Act 2023 fully. What will that mean? It will mean that the Act has given me, an individual, the power to generate electricity, to build a power plant, as long as I do not generate and distribute more than 1 megawatt of electricity. And we're not seeing that, come into play. We're just seeing the major corporations and those that have been there before, taking advantage of this act. So we should allow individuals to come in, in small municipalities and small local governments in small areas, allow them to generate and build plants that will generate some 30 megawatts, 50 megawatts, 100 megawatts, and distribute to these areas. And then that even brings more money back to the government and, ensures that there is productivity and life is better for Nigerians. So I think the Electricity Act is quite holistic, but I do not think that the implementation as it stands today is realistic. We're not looking into it. If we do look into it, I think it gives us a platform and a canvas to actually address this problem and take us to the next level of development in the energy sector, in the electricity generation, distribution, and transmission sector, as it were.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Kenneth, for taking time to speak to us on this.
Always my pleasure.
In the meantime, the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike, has called on investors to invest in Abuja, saying that the federal capital presents a conducive atmosphere for businesses to thrive. This was during the recently concluded Abuja Investment Summit, which showcased the potentials of the federal capital in a bid to woo investors. Amadine Uyi reports.
Abuja is Nigeria's political and administrative capital. While housing the seat of government, Abuja has been a convergence point for several cultures, the nation's diplomatic seat, and recently, an investment haven for investors.
Abuja is not just the political capital of Nigeria, it's a place of opportunities waiting to be harnessed. Our unique position, strategic location, and growing population create a fertile ground for investment across various sectors.
In a bid to ensure Abuja fulfills its key potentials for citizens and residents alike, the Abuja Investment Company has held the first Abuja Investment Summit to harness the potentials of the federal capital.
Abuja Business and Investment Summit is designed to showcase to our stakeholders and potential investors in Nigeria and worldwide the investment opportunities that are bound in the FCT. It's equally a platform to initiate collaborations to enhance economic growth, cultural exchange, and sustainable development.
This summit is aimed at promoting investment opportunities in FCT, as well as creating a platform for networking among investors from within Nigeria and beyond.
The theme that have been chosen, optimizing market investment through partnership, involves leveraging the strength, resources, and capability of different stakeholders.
The Abuja Investment Summit will be pioneering a new approach to it, where you bring in the investors and the businesses. I am hopeful that this will be, a summit where deals will be closed.
While the minister assured of the FCT administration's commitment to delivering key infrastructures to support businesses, others called for collaboration and partnerships by investors.
We recognize that infrastructure is the backbone of any successful investment. That's why we have prioritized the development of roads, transportation networks, and utilities to ensure seamless connectivity within the territory.
It is important to identify strategic partners that will bring complementary strengths, such as expertise, market access, technology, and capital.
I would like to remind participants about the power of building strong partnerships for the achievement of a win-win situation in our business endeavors. Together, we can optimize our investments and drive the impactful change that our organization and country needs for economic prosperity.
The summit hopes to attract investments into Abuja, making it an investment haven. In Abuja for News Central, I am Amadine Uyi.
I am working with the host.
Two businessmen, Ihejireka Ukechukwu Emmanuel and Iwagu Ikedi Victory, as well as a Canadian-based nurse, Usman Grace Khadijat, have been arrested by operatives of the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency for attempting to import and export cocaine pellets and parcels of loud, a synthetic strain of cannabis. Director, Media and Advocacy of the NDLEA, Femi Babafemi, in a statement, said they were arrested at the Murtala Mohammed International Airport, Lagos, while Ihejirika was apprehended for ingesting 400 grams of cocaine. 26-year-old businessman Iwagu was arrested for also ingesting 22 grams of the same substance. Meanwhile, Grace was nabbed with a total of 70 parcels of Canadian loud weighing 35.70 kilograms. The world is currently facing numerous challenges, but poverty remains one of the most pressing and persistent issues. Many nations are struggling to address the root causes, including the aftermath of war, mismanagement of resources, and lack of adequate infrastructure to boost their economies. As a result, global leaders are bearing the heavy responsibility of finding solutions to eradicate poverty. During a courtesy visit to the broadcast office of News Central TV in Lagos, the UNICEF Deputy Executive Director for Partnerships discussed this issue in detail, highlighting the organization's efforts and contributions in the fight against poverty. News Central's Chidima Ona shares more in this report.
Poverty, a persistent reality for many, has long been a source of hardship and despair. In Africa, it takes on multiple forms, and in Nigeria, it has remained a significant challenge for decades. Efforts to eradicate or reduce it have proven difficult, with the ripple effects impacting not only individuals and their families, but also entire communities and nations. This has spurred international organizations, particularly the United Nations International Children's Emergency Fund, to take action in addressing the issue. In a conversation with Kitty van der Heijden, she discusses how climate change and poor economic conditions obstruct development efforts and explores solutions to help children thrive amidst these challenges.
It's protection. But currently what we also see is that many of the development gains that we have achieved over decades are being eroded by climate change. And so really working on making people aware what climate change is doing to children and equipping children for a future that looks very different than when I left high school. And then third, perhaps, it's a very difficult period in life for children. Since we were established almost 80 years ago on education as the foundation for children to be equipped.
In a live interview, the UNICEF Deputy Executive Director for Partnerships revealed the organization's significant efforts, highlighting the holistic approach that begins with providing education and healthcare services to children.
We work with private sector partners, we work with the government partners, the Ministry of Education at federal and at state level to look at curriculum development. It is an essential part of the recipe of economic transformation to make sure that children are healthy, that they're educated, that they are equipped, but also, and this is an important part for the future of Nigeria with a very young population, that they're skilled with the green and digital skills that will actually land them a job.
As efforts to improve the quality of life for people worldwide continue, it is crucial to address all development challenges thoroughly, leaving no stone unturned. In Lagos for News Central, I am Chidima Ona.
Coming up, occupants of Kenyan's 7-story house trapped in building collapse as a rescue mission continues. We'll bring you details in a moment. Welcome back and thank you for staying with us. Now, Senegalese Prime Minister Usman Sonko is calling on voters to give his PASTEF party an overwhelming majority in the West African nation's November 17 legislative elections. Sonko, while speaking to supporters at a pre-election rally in the capital, Dakar, said this would enable him and the president realize their plans to transform the country.
xayma bu njëkk bi ñu def rek nee nañu levé nañu déjà lu mat 500 millions te mbir yaa ngi continuer di dugg ngàcce gaalaama Pastef dama ne kuy tibb tànk wala ngay marquage kilote rek defal ñu gis rôle bi war a assemblée war a jouer ci réew mi il faut que ñu jox le président Bassirou Diomaye Faye gannaaw buñ ko falee premier tour ci opposant lu musul am à 54%. mënuñu def leneen lu dul jox ko les moyens mu doxal politique am mooy jox ko une majorité écrasante à l'Assemblée nationale le 17 novembre.
Residents of Kahawa West in Nairobi were left in disarray after a 7-story building collapsed on Sunday morning. Now, the building, which housed businesses and residential units, collapsed, trapping several occupants. The Kenya Red Cross said in a statement that several people were trapped inside the rubble, but rescue workers were already deployed to the site. Preliminary reports dictated or indicated that residents were informed about a possible collapse in advance by the county planning department. The building, which was marked for demolition, did not affect other adjacent structures. Residents of several districts in Kinshasa, the capital of the Democratic Republic of Congo, have called for help from the authorities after torrential rain triggered flooding where rivers burst their banks. Some of the victims said they have lost everything and even running out of food, and have asked the government to show goodwill and to be aware of the need to help the population.
Bon, débordement ils ont chaque mboula. Moi mboula beti boy. Eux moni za muke. C'est-à-dire moi traversant des grands mabé kota ba palais. Sur be kutu mo la line mbete mo be ko kufa. C'est-à-dire suite à négligence à mboka ba konzi. Suivez ça la raté. On a cinq na gouvernement congolais, na volonté, na conscience à Zaranango. Aider population parce que
c'est-à-dire qu'on a compressionné rivière, l'eau ne passe pas. C'est pourquoi que ça déborde. Si ça déborde, ça manque par où passer, ça nous entre dans la maison.
Qu'est-ce qui a compressé là?
Dans nos maisons, tout est abîmé, tout. Nous manquons même quoi manger aujourd'hui avec les enfants.
Voting is underway in Moldova for the presidential election and referendum on joining the European Union amidst fears of Russia meddling in the move. The elections are a test of the former Soviet Republic's pro-European turn under incumbent President Maia Sandu, who is seeking a second term. The elections are said to have been marred with election irregularities where there have been massive vote buying. Police made hundreds of arrests, warning this week that up to a quarter of the ballots cast in the country of 2.6 million could be tainted by Russian cash.
Votat pentru un viitor mai bun a copiilor, a nepoților și a strănepoților. Să aibă dreptul să plece în orice țară liber.
Poate nu chiar suntem mulțumiți, fiindcă, mă rog, ar trebui să facă un pic mai mult. Să mai întoarcă cu fața la popor. Da, din tot ce este, am găsit. Din tot ce este, am găsit.
Alege o direcție decisivă cumva pentru viitorul țării, pentru că nu mai putem pretinde neutralitate și trebuie să participăm într-o familie mai mare, că suntem mici și trebuie să fim inteligenți.
Păi se hotărăște soarta Moldovei. Avem un drum în Europa, noi nu mai stăm pe loc, nu mai suntem mărginiți cu gazul, nu mai suntem cu lumina, nu mai suntem cu chiar și războiul este sub coastele noastre, ne îngrijorează, ne încordează, vrem libertate.
Italy's northeastern Emilia-Romagna region was again partially underwater on Sunday after heavy overnight rain and flooding that killed one person in a flat land battered by extreme weather as recently as last month. Firefighters said they had found the body of a missing person in Boteino di Zocca, immediately south of Bologna. The victim has been identified as a 20-year-old man whose car was swept away by the rush of water. Bologna and 4 provinces in the northeastern plains area were placed under a red alert until midnight Sunday, although rains had tapered off. According to the City Hall, schools in Bologna would be closed on Monday. In the world of sports, the Nigeria Premier Football League has rescheduled the matchday 8 fixture between Aqua United and Rangers International billed for Godswill Akpabio International Stadium, Uyo, on Monday. Now, the match, which was originally slated for Sunday, was moved due to Aqua United's late return to base following a long trip to Katsina, where they faced Katsina United in a matchday 7 encounter on Wednesday. Aqua United's technical advisor, Mohammed Baba Ganaru, will miss the crucial tie due to the passing of his sister. Now, according to reports, assistant coach Abdullahi Umar will take off Aqua United. The French Football League has condemned homophobic chanting by a section of Paris Saint-Germain fans at Saturday's match against Strasbourg at the Parc des Princes Stadium. The LFP said its disciplinary committee would investigate the incident at the match, which Paris Saint-Germain won 1-0. The chants, mainly from PSG's hardcore ultra fan base, lasted around 10 minutes and were directed against Marseille ahead of the French champions' clash with their arch rivals next weekend. The stadium announcer made 2 appeals for them to stop. Last season, PSG were ordered by the LFP to close the Ultras stand for 1 game over a similar incident. New Zealand claimed their first Test victory in India for 36 years and only their 3rd ever. Now, captain of the side, Tom Latham, had to watch from the dressing room after being removed for a duck to Jasprit Bumrah as the visitors chased 107 to win. Will Young and Rachin Ravindra then guided New Zealand from 35 to 2 through to an 8-wicket on the final day of the test in Bengaluru. It gives New Zealand a 1-0 lead in the best of 3 series. New Zealand's previous test victories in India came in 1969 at Nagpur and at Mumbai in 1988. India have history on their side, having won 18 consecutive test series on home soil stretching back to 2012. And that's all at this hour. But before we go, here's another look at some of our top stories. You heard that arrested NSAS memorial protesters freed after alleged police brutality. You also heard that federal government set to transfer national grid management to an independent system operator. Finally, we told you that occupants of Kenyan 7-story house trapped in building collapse as rescue mission continues. You can watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, Star Times channel 274, Avo TV, and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I'm Dashen, Usman.